Shabbat Shalom. Wow, what an honor to stand on this bima, to be introduced by the music of our son David. David wrote that Tzadik Katamar as part of a fuller Shabbat evening celebration at the time of my retirement, and he dedicated it to Sandy and to me in honor of our 50th anniversary in the rabbinate. So to come from Indianapolis to listen to the melody here in Toronto fills our hearts. Our hearts are filled for many reasons on this Shabbat. We have already said and will continue to reiterate how precious Rabbi Tina Grinberg has been over many decades to Sandy and to me, and how important this synagogue has been in our becoming as rabbis. And now to meet Rabbi Lesner, Ryan Lesner, and so many new friends, as well as old acquaintances, to hear Phyllis Greenberg chant the service as we remember having her done in other settings in the history of our community and movement. Rabbi Tina read a reflection from Rabbi David Wolpe, I think she attributed to, on the first question in the Torah. And that question is, Ayeka, where are you? Which also raises the question of the fact that the first man, the first human to whom that question is addressed, might have been a German Jew, Ayeka. Ayeka means, where are you, in a deep spiritual sense. What is the second question that the Torah poses? It is the question that God asks Cain now, and that question is, Aye hevel achicha, where is your brother? Abel, where is your brother? And what is Cain's response to that? Hashomer achi anochi. Those are the three most powerful opening fundamental questions and responses that the Torah poses. Where are you? Where is your neighbor? Am I, my neighbors, my brothers and sisters, keeper? And from these three questions unfold the entire tradition and story of Torah. Finding oneself, finding one another, and caring for one another. And my experience this morning is this is a congregation that understands what it means to be a shomer achi, shomer achoti, the caregiver, the one who is invested in brothers and sisters and friends. So thank you for bringing us to this congregation. With the Torah reading for this Shabbat, we conclude the third book of the Torah, book of Vayikra, book of Leviticus. The portion is entitled Behukotai. When I was younger, I never liked to talk about this Torah portion. It's a tough Torah portion. The central theme of the last chapters of Leviticus is divine reward and punishment in keeping with our observance of or disobedience of the commandments of the Torah. The assumption throughout the Torah portion is, if you do good, you will be rewarded. If you do evil, you will suffer punishment. Theologically, that is a difficult question, and Mordecai Kaplan wrestles with that, and Job wrestled with that before, because there are bad people who prosper, and as we know, good people who suffer. Nonetheless, the Torah presents us with some sobering thoughts, listing an ominous catalog of punishments for disobedience and of rewards for observance of the Torah. the listing of punishments is about 3 times longer than the listing of rewards. We can talk about why that at some point. But essentially, this summarizes what the Torah states elsewhere. I place before you a blessing and a curse. Choose life. The most prevalent word in this week's Torah portion is a little particle, if, if. In Hebrew, im. Each of those rewards and punishments is preceded by the word im bechukotai, if you would follow. Rabbi Kaplan taught that this is one of the most important words in our religious vocabulary. If, im. He actually referred to Judaism as an ifist religion. Judaism is an ifist religion. We're all familiar with Kipling's poem, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue or walk with kings and not lose the common touch, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son." My father gave me that poem on my 21st birthday with a lovely dedication. This Torah portion is not about how to be an individual, but how to be a people. If. Now, both the English and the Hebrew words for life, chayim in Hebrew, are 4-letter words. Life, chayim. In English, the middle letters of the word life are if, if. In Hebrew, the middle letters of the word chayim, yud, yud, the name of God. We might say then that God is the eternal if of life, that reality which inspires and sustains us to turn what is into what ought to be. Kaplan would say, in fact, that is the role of religion. And that's why he called Judaism an ifist religion, a faith of constant possibility. The Torah reminds us that no enterprise can be indifferent to the moral if. If science pursues its investigations without assuming social responsibility for the consequences of its discoveries, we're going to be in trouble. If we build an economic society that is guided only by productivity and profits and not by the welfare of its citizens, ultimately that society will fall upon itself and destroy us by the sheer weight of its immorality. If we rest comfortably when others hurt, if we ignore the plight of the hungry and don't feel moved to actions, then we undermine the fabric of society. If we abuse the earth and its resources, we will pay the consequences. Or perhaps the most famous of the ifs in the post-biblical Jewish tradition, im tirtzu, if you will it. It is no dream, said Theodor Herzl, and we are, till this day, dealing with the challenges of that im, of that if. So there is in this week's Torah portion a striking admonition. In the listing of the moral choices before the people, Moses says, "If you will walk in my commandments, you shall eat your bread and be satisfied." Ve'ahalta ve'sabata. It inspires the Birkat Hamazon. You shall eat, you shall be satisfied. If you follow my commandments, you shall eat your bread and you shall be satisfied. Now, the opposite of that, the punishment for not walking in God's teaching, we would expect to be, you shall not eat and you shall go hungry. But as we read on, we notice that the punishment for the transgression of the moral law is not that, but rather, you shall eat and not be satisfied. Abundance, but lack of satisfaction. Things, but no pleasure. Stuff, but no happiness. So the material opposite of having bread is not having bread, but the moral opposite of having bread is to have it and not to enjoy it. The blessing is to eat with satisfaction and pleasure. The curse is to eat, but without satisfaction or joy. In one of the warnings of this Torah portion, we read that disobedience to the moral law will cause us to be frightened by the sound of a dry leaf driven by the wind. The sound of a dry leaf will scare us. And this inspired the title of one of the most famous American Jewish novels, Mordecai Kaplan's disciple, Rabbi Milton Steinberg's book, As a Driven Leaf. There are people who lived plagued by the sounds of driven leaves, by fears, by guilt, remorse, moral paranoia, the hypochondria, not of disease, but of dis-ease, of not being at ease with ourselves, at peace with our loved ones, at home and in touch with our conscience, which is the fundamental question, Ayeka, where are you? So this week's Torah portion is a reminder that it is not stuff that brings ultimate happiness. What does bring happiness and contentment is a lifestyle in accordance with the if of the moral law. How we use our gifts, how we share them, how we treat others, achicha, achotcha. It is not power, not acquisition, not control that make a person free, but the way that we turn life's ifs into life's oughts, life's possibilities into living realities, the if of life into the yud, the human potential into divine actualization. At the end of this week's Torah portion, as we close the third book of the Torah, we will say, Hazak, Hazak, Venit Hazek. Let us be strong and let us find strength in one another. Ayeka, Aye, Achicha, Achiotecha. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.